Welcome to the Strategy Sherpa Show, a series of organic discussions between hosts David Chavez and a variety of notable business leaders centered around their most significant failures and how they handled those challenges, so listeners can learn from their most teachable moments and apply the lessons to their organizations. Now, here's your host, David Chavez.
Hey, everybody, this is David Chavez, and this is the Strategy Sherpa Show. Welcome back, everybody. I just have a few things I wanted to share with you. Have a few events coming up on September the 26th, actually, just in a few days. Strategic pricing for profit. Pricing is very critical. We've had some clients that done a little bit of miss there. And so Warren Sager from 1 to 2 Central Time will be talking about this and how to improve your cash flow through pricing, looking at dynamic pricing and things like that. And just so we can get to it, because I know he has to run a jet and get a plane just like I have to do quite often. So let's introduce Trey Mauck. Now I'm going to say it wrong. Mauck, right?
Mauck. Yeah, correct. Trey Mauck.
Yeah, and I knew I was going to say it a little bit off just because I got it right the very first time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Trey, welcome to the show. And I want to give you a few seconds to introduce yourself, because I always think it's better if you tell us the really important highlights. And tell us a little bit about your business, because you have integrated business solutions and you deal in insurance. And share with the audience a little bit about what you do and your company, where it's located, things like that.
Sure, absolutely. Born and raised in Roanoke, Virginia, Southwest Virginia. Went to college at James Madison University, where I met my wife, and we're both incredibly still, very active with the university. Graduated from school, 7 years with 3M Company, 7 years with Aetna. That's where I learned the insurance business. And then I was very fortunate to go play on Wall Street for a couple of years with the original founder of the Carlyle deal. So involved in quite a few large transactions, and got to spend 2 years up on Wall Street, which is definitely unique, but a tremendous amount of experience came from that. I think we formed 16 companies during that 2-year period. So, but Wall Street, not for me. Fell back to the passion of my insurance, and my college roommate and I started up Integrated Insurance in 2001. Currently 8 locations in the Mid-Atlantic, roughly about 75 employees, that we currently have. On the personal side, I have 4 children, 3 sons, a beautiful daughter. My wife is a certified financial planner and runs the financial part of our company. Mm-hmm. So, and then, again, 3 boys and a girl there, and very blessed with just phenomenal children, and had my first granddaughter. And to show our loyalty to Madison, the first granddaughter is named Madison. So my wife, again, a very integral part to my success. For example, currently she runs the governor's boards for women's causes in the state of Virginia. Wow. Actually invited the governor to come sit with us at the last football game, and he did. So that was pretty neat. And she's the chairwoman of the business school at JMU. So a lot of accolades there, and we work well together in tandem. But that's just a little bit about the background. Quick summary.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. I love that the grandbaby's name too there. I caught that one. You love your alma mater so much that you had to name your grandbaby that.
Correct. Yeah. And we beat UNC, which was amazing in football over the weekend. So a small school came down and played an ACC school, and we won. So that was exciting weekend. Yeah.
It's great to have football back in our lives, isn't it?
It is.
All right.
Absolutely.
So you run a company called Integrated Business Solutions, and where are you guys located in the world?
Yeah, so Integrated Insurance Solutions.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said that wrong. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. Just in case anybody was searching for it. But the main office is in Ashburn, Virginia. And then again, there's 8 offices in the Mid-Atlantic. So, and growth probably more growth heading south.
Yeah. And what's your business model like for that insurance agency?
Yeah, so it's really unique. During COVID, it made it very difficult just to, grow the insurance business the traditional organic way. So again, We had started doing some acquisitions during that period, and then also creating some very unique joint ventures. So when I talk about the acquisitions, when to hit my revenue objectives, you almost had to have an acquisition, one acquisition a year to make the numbers work. And then if I throw in and got creative with the joint ventures, we started an office, for example, in Charlotte, North Carolina, 2 years ago, and we're in the top 20 now.
Nice.
The business would already be valued probably over $2 million. And again, it was by forming joint ventures with large family-owned companies, a little unique. Myrtle Beach is a joint venture with Century 21 and have some great partners down there. So these locations that I have a tendency to follow a joint venture or some type of strategic opportunity. That's a
very good idea. Is that by design or?
When I worked at 3M Company, I had come up with a couple joint ventures back in the day for them on a couple marketing ideas. And it took some time, did some research, had a good mentor, to help guide me through the process. And now it's scalable and we're going to replicate it. So I think that we'll be doing the next family-owned business here in our backyard. And then the third is supposed to be Atlanta.
Okay, very good. And so your uniqueness to your client is that you're in partners with other people, and what other things do you do that are unique for your customer? Like if I come to you and I'm looking for some solutions, because a lot of times smaller businesses go to a company and they just buy general liability insurance. What would you do for them?
Yeah, I think first of all, you got to look at the experience. So we are playing right below the publicly traded firms. So, we're not a Lockton, we're not a Marsh, we're not one of the big, publicly traded firms, but the expertise is very similar. We're licensed in, I think, 37 states. Okay. So, and ours is about a wow factor mentality. So within 2 hours to get a response back, may not have the answer, but we're going to let you know we saw your email or we got your phone call. So, in those scenarios, that might be a big fish in our business. To the publicly traded firms, they're jamming that in small business units or sort of going to the B team. Yeah. So, that's a nice little niche we play in.
Yeah, that's great too. And especially when you have a claim like that, you want to know at least it's been received. I think then that's pretty important, right?
Correct. Then there's two other parts to that question. I'd say you have to have the size in the industry to have enough power to be able to call in favors when you have a gray area issue. And it seems like that is increased tremendously lately, that you have to be able to fight for the claim. The insurance companies are losing money right now. They're not just giving the claims away, like they were years ago. So you have to have, that size to also support that. And then the third piece is a large portfolio of carriers because of the financial investments they make. Who's our go-to today is not the carrier we may use tomorrow as much. So these carriers come in and out of cycles. So I call it a large stable of carriers to give us the opportunity that might be somebody we haven't used in a while is really killing it right now. And you have that ability. So it's not a captive where if you're a State Farm agent, that's all you got. And if it doesn't fit, you lose the business.
Right. Right. So you're trying to match up the solution to their business a little bit more then, is what it sounds like to me.
Dead on. Absolutely. The forms are also different. You have to match them up to the, to the type of technology, the SIC code that industry is.
Very good. Interesting. Okay. Very good. All right. Well, it sounds like if somebody's looking for a solution, it is integrated insurance solutions. I apologize about that. I actually wrote it down wrong. So when we originally talked, I had written it down. I wrote it down wrong, but I was on your website. So the funny part was I was on your website. So we'll make sure everybody has the right name. Now you've been in the insurance business for how long, you said?
It would be 23 years with Integrated and then 7 years prior with Aetna. So around 30 total years in the industry.
Okay. So you have quite a business acumen in the insurance industry. I've ended up in a lot of conversations with people about insurance lately, and you just alluded to it a little bit, that the insurance company has record losses.
Correct.
Yeah. And how
Yeah, I
does
mean,
that affect the average business person?
oh, devastating. I look at my own fixed expenses in my own business. They're up 30%. And then you're trying to also, help your employees with inflation, which again is, tough to keep up with. So it's a very difficult time, not only in our space, I'm in other CEO groups, and a lot of commonality between, all CEOs on what we're fighting with the increased cost. But it is difficult. And it puts us into a situation where we're having to shop out of that large portfolio of carriers, take a client and have them to shop to make sure we're getting them the best rate and the best premium. Normally in a year, you might do that with a third of your clientele because you don't move it every year in most cases. Now it's that volatility stuff is just moving right, moving left. And that's very expensive also for all sides. It's, a lot of time for the client too, to spend in that process. So we're not very productive in a lot of ways right now because of that, that factor.
Yeah. And for businesses, so everyone should be expecting probably about a 30% renewal rate, 30% increase in your renewal this year.
Now, I apologize if I misled on that. The trend's probably about 12 to 15 annually last year, this year, and next year is what I would predict. Okay. And again, that depends on the line of coverage you're talking about. I'm talking more home and auto in that scenario. Okay. Certain lines of coverage have actually starting to slow down, like property is starting to level off and maybe come down a little bit. So they're all separate silos and sort of run their own way. From how they are impacted by rates.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I just heard that not too long ago, maybe within the last week, that the insurance companies were in a little bit of trouble, and that's why insurance was going up so much, because I've had several people talk to me about it, and and you're confirming that. You just went to a convention, did you not?
Yeah, just spent 3 days up in Chicago with basically the top 100 insurance agencies in the country, along with some financial service guys. Mm-hmm. The meeting was very educational, but I also came out with a little more anxiety than I went in with, because this problem for us is not solved yet. So might be solved in 12 months, 24 months, I'm not sure, but at least at this point, it doesn't appear to be.
Wow. So we should all be expecting this coming up. So hey, this is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and I'm sure you know what we do here.
Right.
We like to talk about things, there's a lot of shows out there that talk about how great business owners are. And it sounds like you're a great business owner. You're doing really well now. But we all do things that we're not so proud of as we're growing these things. And what I'm really trying to do with this show is help people understand that mistakes are part of the game. And all of us make them, and we have to pay for those mistakes, and then we have to try to work out of them. So we usually share what our mistake is, and then we talk about what I had to do to fix what I did wrong. Because when you did it, it sounded like the best thing in the world, right? So when you did it, so if you will, please share yours with us.
Yeah, exactly. So roughly 3 years ago, right around the launch of the COVID timeframe, we started to see business slowing down tremendously. We're not meeting the goals for that particular year. And one of our objectives was, to make sure we had an acquisition during that 12-month period. So we couldn't really, we'd gone through one or two that we thought we were going to execute on. Those didn't work. We found one. And then we rushed through the due diligence and did not make the proper effort to understand that company in its entirety. So, the company, we had growth goals, we wanted an acquisition.
Go ahead. Trey, this is a live radio show. So unfortunately I have to take breaks, but you know what? This sounds like it's really going to be interesting, because you made an acquisition that maybe went didn't go the best. So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to take a few-minute break. We'll be right back. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. We'll be back after these messages.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
Hey, everybody, this is David Chavez, and this is the Strategy Sherpa Show. We're here with Trey Mauck, and he is with Integrated Insurance Solutions. He is the CEO of that company. And Trey, you were right at the break. I must have timed this just perfectly. I asked you the question of what you did that you could have done a little bit better, and you started to talk about an acquisition of a company. And I think you were under a little bit of pressure to try to get that done before the end of the year. Is that correct?
Yes, just it was one of the goals and objectives that we had to try to accomplish. So, and then we thought we had one that was going to occur, and it fell through. And it was becoming towards the end of the calendar year. So, what led to the environment that with all those factors sort of led me to make a poor decision in the end, as I explained how the process went down. But that was what was pushing me to get that in before the end of the year to make my numbers look better. And insurance carriers will require us to have growth. So if we're ever going backwards in volume with them, it can cause issues. Termination of contracts, a lot of pressure, et cetera. So loss of commission, other factors. So sometimes you need that organic growth with the organic growth to make it all hit. So that was the actual decision, though, that was the decision that I would say I made the mistake. I should not have bought that company.
Okay. And let's unwind that a little bit because, I think most of us, I bought a CPA firm when I owned my CPA firm, and it didn't go as well as I wanted it to either. And knowing all that I knew, I missed a few things. I think that when you're doing it yourself, you're a little attached to the deal. But you made the acquisition and you wanted to get it done before the end of the year because you were behind on your growth goals a little bit. So tell us a little bit about what happened. So you start to talk to this company and get involved with them, and then what happened?
Yeah, so actually working through a broker, a business broker. So we're actually dealing directly with the broker, and had 30 days of due diligence, going through looking at their contracts, their paperwork, their commission statements. And then, again, by working through the business broker, I didn't really have a personal relationship with this particular agency. And because of our size, I pretty have a good vibe, or almost know everybody in my backyard in the Washington, D.C. area. Right.
Right.
So did not know this, particular individual. So we did our due diligence. It all checked out. I used the calculations I would usually run in my business of 2 times revenue would be a very understandable benchmark on what I was going to pay for this company. So we were moving forward, and we had such provisions in the contract, a holdback or some type of ability that what he said was not accurate or didn't perform at the levels that had been promised, we would have some money to sort of hold back to weaken our losses, cut our losses potentially. But we went through some things that were very important to him. He goes, I don't want to hold back. And I never have not put one in a contract, but had seen all the numbers. And I think it skewed my judgment there. Thus, I, executed on a poor contract that did not give me a lot of leverage in this situation. Couple other caveats to it is we were pretty full on the manpower. I needed his manpower to maintain that business, and the curveball, which was very tough to detect. His office was trying to buy the business also. So as we walk in to take over, we win. All of a sudden, discover he's already moved overseas within 48 hours of executing the deal. And the whole staff is saying they're not going to work for us. They never promised to work for us. And that's, not going to happen. So we didn't have all the passwords to get in systems. It was a very difficult transition. I had to pull people from some of my other offices and fly them in for a month just, to keep that afloat. In the same breath, I should have taken immediate legal action on the scenario in some form or fashion. And instead I said, let me see if I can mold this and work on it and see if I can make this work, back to the greed of wanting to make it work and knowing I needed this to hit some numbers. And, that's just my personality. So against legal counsel, I said, give me a little time. Well, if I would have acted within 24 hours, I would have had probably a good case to have this all null and void.
Right.
But because I spread it out. So, I got to meet an individual and have lunch with him. The gentleman's name was Cujo, and he was the captain of the Blue Angels.
Uh-huh.
And, his whole thing is about debriefing. So after every mission, they spend twice as much time debriefing as they do in the air. So, I had to turn this back, cost me quite a bit of money, set us back. We're still paying on one of the loans. No recourse, tried a couple different legal action, no recourse, can't go after someone overseas. So, to help us sort of overcome that and not do it again, we really went into a debrief mode and changed, how we make an acquisition now.
Yeah. Well, let's dissect some of this, because you said a lot right there, and I definitely understand. So you're going in, how many agencies have you purchased thus far?
Probably average, probably 10 and 20 years.
Okay. So you've done quite a few deals then.
Correct.
You're doing one every couple of years on average.
Correct.
Yeah. And was this one of the early ones that you did, or where was this at in the deal flow?
Yeah, no, this was, I've done one since, but it was next to last. It was around the COVID time frame.
Okay. So it was during COVID, and this gentleman, what attracted you to their company?
The carriers that he had fit well with my carriers on where I needed to pick up some volume. So I needed to make some deposits in this bucket and deposits in this bucket, and that matched up very well. And the talent that he had, I did my due diligence talking to other insurance carriers. The talent that he had there was strong. And in this labor force, I have more trouble finding people than almost acquiring a company and hopefully praying that I can retain their A talent.
Yeah. Yeah, I would tell you probably a lot of businesses have that problem right now. So this agency, it had some of the buckets you needed to fill for the year. So by acquiring it, it would help you keep your relationships with those larger insurance carriers and maintain your status with them, because you get a little bit of status the more you work with them. Is that a fair way of saying it?
Yeah, well, not the larger the volume you have with them,
okay,
you definitely have more status. But your sentence was incredibly articulate, dead on.
Okay, and so now you go in, and you didn't know this guy, but you know a lot of the people. And what made you? Because you had done 8 deals up to that time, and probably my guess, and I just knowing you a little bit because I've talked to you a couple different times now. You go in there and he tells you he doesn't want to do a clawback, and you're like going, "Oh, whoa," and he's like, "No, I'm not going to do the deal." What made you give in on that?
Yes, gosh, that is the miracle question, because I cannot answer that question unless I just go back that I was at that time caught up in the greed of wanting to hit the numbers, and I've never not missed the numbers. So it's like, I've made it to the Super Bowl every year, and this year, I'm falling a little bit short, and I think I got a little greedy, and I added some extra protection to the language, but it turned out to be a moot point on what I added. I don't know if I got played in its entirety, but I did get played a little bit. But makes me stronger, won't happen again. And I believe in people, and that handshake. And the guy shook my hand across the table and said, "You have nothing to worry about." And then, 2 days later is in a foreign country. So
where'd he go? Did he go to Mexico or Costa Rica or something? Or
no, had gone back to Pakistan. Went back to Pakistan.
Okay. Oh, too bad. Okay.
Yeah.
So no recourse at all then.
Not very little recourse without presence, and then did not have the support of his office staff, who again day one, when my team came in to say, hi, let's join together and sing Kumbaya, they all got up and left, so it was very traumatic.
Right. Well, so how were you at the time? Were you very stressed out? What were you like? Were you mad that you had done this deal, or?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of emotions come in there. You definitely get the remorse of the deal. And then, okay, what impact if this goes from a 10 in my mind yesterday to a 1? What's our financial income? The people I had to fly in to help, run that location for 30 days. They're missing their families. They're not happy. They don't want to be there. Am I going to cause more disruption because of this, poor decision? Poor decisions take so much more time to fix than obviously a right decision.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we still feel the pain a little bit from it. So it's just, yeah, it was tough.
And what did you like? I heard you when you said that you were going through this deal and nothing ever came up in the deal where you suspected anything different, that you thought this guy was just going to come along with you and he was going to be fine. This transaction was going to be fine.
Well, we knew we had the owner for 30. We had access to the owner for 30 days, but the way that the contract read, it was access via phone or other types of communication. Didn't mandate that he had to be geographically within 30 miles of the office. So you got into time constraints trying to reach. So that was an area of contention in that regard. But I did not go. I've never had this happen. Did 16 deals on Wall Street. I've never had this scenario ever happen. And we let our guard down just a little bit, just enough for it to squeak through in that example.
Yeah, yeah, and you said greed. I just want to address that. I think that you had set a goal for yourself, and I know for entrepreneurs, we like hitting our goals, right? And so you were chasing the goal, maybe not greed. You just wanted to make sure you hit your goal. Is that what it really was, or?
Yeah, correct. You're just trying to hit that objective. And when you hit those objectives from a leadership standpoint, the team sees you hit those goals. And when you set them the next year, once you miss a goal or something, or I call it being on the right side of the mountain, it's a lot easier to push the rock down the hill than it is to push it uphill. So that's part of that. So I agree with you. Greed's not the right word. Maybe selfishness on my part might be a better word there. But that was the emotion.
Or maybe tenacity, even just, hey, I have a goal. I want to hit it. I'm going to try to make it happen if I can.
No, right? I hear you. I'm that guy, but I try to stay humble. I'm definitely
I know that's
why
I ask you to be on the show, is because you and I talked the very first time too.
So, and you got to take risks to be successful. And, statistically 50% of deals don't work out. So I threw it in that bucket. And we're looking to make one here, hopefully in about 60 days, make our next one. So okay, back in the saddle.
Well, Trey, we have another break here that we need to take, and this will be the last break with you, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap up your section of the show. So this is a Strategy Sherpa Show, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
Hey, everybody. This is David Chavez. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and this is our third segment. And we're here with Trey Mauck. Right? Am I saying that?
Yep.
Making sure. Integrated Insurance Solutions out of Virginia is the headquarters, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And he's been sharing with us some interesting stuff. Trey, one of the hardest things we do, I think, when we start a business and you're trying to grow it, is you decide to buy a company, and you think it's an easy transaction, but there's a lot of nuance in these things, is there not?
Yeah, correct. I mean, the due diligence for us, may run 30 to 45 days, and then a lot of back and forth on the negotiations of contracts. that period can actually cause the deal to stall just because people lose interest because of how long sometimes that takes. But to the last question we were talking about, I was talking about, again, the captain of the Blue Angels on that debriefing. So by us going back and spending all that time, what could we do better? We came out with a long laundry list of how we sort of failed that day. So, so when we went back into that, we put a formal policy process, just, how we go through our due diligence and making sure that we're not missing it. Requires 3 people to sign off on the document. We also have one-time outside consultant also review the deal for a flat fee, just to make sure that there's, nothing there. And then, we're asking in some cases, instead of the scenario where the guy wants to retire and move on, we are actually, in the future, we're looking for agencies that want to sell, that want to jump onto our management team or want to stay active in whatever their yellow brick road is, but not dissect immediately from that book and from our company. Those deals have been very successful when we look back and looked at it. But the guy who sells and is not there tomorrow and tough to get in touch with, it just leaves too many unanswered, answers. So that's a big part of, what we changed up in that process.
Yeah. So you when you were looking at it all, you realized that that some of these things that you saw in some of the other deals just weren't in this deal.
Correct.
Okay. And then you made the other mistake by not doing a clawback just to make sure, because that's pretty common in small deals, to have a little bit of a clawback. And usually it could be anywhere from 20 to 40% of the deal could be held back just while they're getting these, you're making sure you got everything that you bought. So
correct. Absolutely. And again, I wouldn't say an oversight because we made an executive decision to pull it. But again, a bad decision.
Yeah.
In that regard.
So when you did this deal, you come in the next morning, all these people are gone. You had to bring how many people did you have to bring down to the office?
5.
Oh my goodness. Okay. And then you're worried about them getting frustrated from being away from their families all this time and wanting to maybe like leave altogether. You're worried about that probably. You're worried about them doing 2 things because they still have their work back at their office.
Yeah, correct. Definitely caused a little bit of a challenge for us. I would have called it managed chaos, and I do believe you can survive managed chaos and come out stronger from it. As we have. But yeah, there was a lot of people I had to call in and, hey, as a team, let's jump on this boat together. Let's fix this thing as good as we can. The decision's made. It was a bad decision. Now we got to salvage what we can. So everybody had that mentality, was putting in long hours, frustrated. Yes.
And just from doing this for a long time, being involved in external coaching and consulting world for all my career, I would share with you that you had to have a lot of trust with your people in order for them to be able to do that. And that trust had to be built long before that day.
Oh yeah, my management team's the best management team, most gifted individuals, most loyal, trustworthy, and we've never had a backwards year in growth, and it's attributable to the team. We have no turnover. It's just a great organization to work for. There's about 80 of us, and I'll tell you another interesting stat. Nothing against the guys out there, but roughly 70 are female.
Yeah.
So, yep. So, I just have that perspective that women are just great for business. They get stuff done, and that falls into that family feeling and that loyalty and other factors out there. So nothing against the guys out there.
Yeah. No, I don't think.
But the models worked well for us. Yeah, it's worked well for us.
Yeah. So did you get any value out of this company at all so far?
Yeah, we retained 40% of revenue. So, so not a total loss. And if you run it over a 6-year period, I'd still end up in a break even, but it was still a slap to the face and took my ego down a notch on that. But in the end, I'm better off, just like the Blue Angels would say, you're avoiding a crash. I'm better off because I won't make that mistake on a small acquisition, on a big acquisition, and cost the company. So It scares you. It definitely scares you. You get that gut feeling like you've been hit in the stomach, like what the hell have I done here? I put all my other employees in jeopardy by making this bad decision, and there's uncertainty because you don't know how bad it's going to end up.
Yeah.
But we rallied.
It's funny, when I was in the Army, I had a major that was helping me with some of my, I was going to college at the time, and he was a West Point instructor for English. He was helping me a little bit. And in his mentorship, he had told me, David, it's not the big decisions that impact our life the most, it's the little ones. Because if you really think about it, you really think through big decisions. And sometimes with little decisions, you're just going fast and you make them really quick, and then they come back and bite you and have a larger impact than you think they're going to have. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think this is the case. Now, you said you retained 40% of the business. Now, with 40% of the business retained, the other 60 went with the people who left?
Some went with one agent that might have taken some, and then the rest just, I think, became dispersed due to the inability of us to have the data that we thought we were going to have. And again, a poor job at probably the prior 30 days of them working that book because they knew we had won the bid. So they had no interest, at that point of, putting their best foot forward. So, yeah, I mean, it was a perfect storm for us.
Well, I'm going to congratulate you on your mistake, because I think that you'll never do that one again. And I know you're
promise.
Still, yeah. And you said you're in the middle of doing another deal right now, huh?
We're in due diligence on another opportunity.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good. And so this time, I'm sure you're following your checklist and making sure that everything is in line and dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's, if you will.
Correct. Yep, absolutely. And more hands on deck, more eyes on it that can give perspective, that maybe I look over it because I'm skewed by the revenue and they're looking at the expenses because, again, a different age group individual who's more focused on bottom line than maybe top line. And I like all those perspectives thrown at me because I don't want my management team to agree with everything I put on the table. And that's where we were a couple of years ago, where it was more of just, if Trey likes it, we all sort of like it. Now that everybody's a lot more vocal about their opinion.
Oh, good. Okay. So you even, you probably elevated your trust level with your team by them being able to share with you and things like that. Well, Trey, I love when people come and share a really good issue. And I'll tell you, this is a good one. I think there's a lot of value in what you just said to people out there, because I think that I have a couple of companies that we're working with, buying companies right now. And one of the guys is doing the deal himself. And I'm helping him a little bit, but I'm pretty nervous that he's doing the deal himself, because you become emotionally involved in it, and it makes it a little bit harder to do. But I'm trying to keep him focused on the due diligence and making sure he does all that.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about your company today, because there's a lot of people that live in your market that tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah. So again, integrated insurance solutions. Our perfect client is a total solution client, where we're handling the benefits, the financial services, the compliance, the property and casualty. Even if there's overseas exposures, we write overseas. So, that's the type of client we're looking for, where we really bond. We become a trusted advisor, and they tell us if they're about to buy something. We don't find out after the fact. And insurance is, messed up as it is right now. Those conversations have to be have to be had on a regular basis. But and then again, blessed with all the carriers, so that carrier advantage gives me so much more opportunity than my peer group. So and then again, with the size of roughly about $10 million in size, gives us that clout, that value to get a lot of things done in the industry. So big on the wow factor service, really take care of a client. Our retention's 94%. So if we're losing a client, it's because they sold or went out of business.
Yeah. And like, are you mainly with small businesses and individuals, or more mid-sized companies? What do you serve out there?
Yeah, great question again. We write Jim Bob's Towing Shop, but we're blessed enough to write like the largest Verizon franchise owner with 22,000 employees. We do work with the largest law firm in the DC area. So with the skill sets, we're sort of gifted to be able to handle the higher end stuff right below the publicly traded firms. But of that entrepreneurial spirit, I've always been entrepreneurial. I like helping the small guy, and we can really have an impact on that guy's business without taking advantage of him.
Right, right. And you'll integrate his personal life into that, which as a small business owner, you really need.
Yeah, a lot of experience, especially with the Wall Street experience, also a lot that we can, offer in that advice. And also like connecting the dots of two clients I know, because I understand their business so well. If I can connect them, we do a lot of connecting of dots. So that helps out a lot too. Little mini aggregator.
Well, I think you said something really important, being a CPA for years, excuse me, there's a couple of people that I think a lot of times business owners leave off the list. One is the insurance person, and also the other one is the banker. And until you need these people, you don't know how important developing that relationship is.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of effort has to put forth that, because you need to be able to have a conversation with someone that trusts you, that when you're in these discussions. So I'm flying tonight to go, with the CEO of Cincinnati Insurance to the Skins game tonight. So it's right. And in doing that, because I'm going to need a favor at some point for one of my clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, so that's what it's all about. So
yeah, well, Trey, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom with us. And for all of you out there that are buying a company, he gave you some valuable lessons in here. So pay attention to what he learned in this process. And thank you for coming on and being a part of our show. We really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no, it was tmauck@integrated-usa.com on the email address. So if anybody has any questions, let me know.
Okay, well, we'll do that. And thank you very much. And we'll put that out there for everyone. Take care and have a great day. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. We'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
Hey, everybody. This is David Chavez, and this is the Strategy Sherpa Show. We're just finished up with Trey, and he talked a little bit about his issue. He has done several acquisitions. He said 10 in the last 20 years. So every couple of years, he's been buying a company. Great strategy. When I talked to him, when I first met him, it was pretty fascinating about the strategy he is using to grow his company. And these acquisitions are an active part of it, as well as building relationships with his customers, as you can see. And it was just really interesting listening to him and going through his scenario and what actually happened to him. He had done 8 deals before that, and my guess is that he became a little complacent and became a little comfortable with his knowledge of doing the deals, and that's when we make mistakes. Sometimes we think we got this down, and it's not down as well as we would actually like, and we end up in this situation where we are going through it and we jump over some hurdles that we normally wouldn't jump over. We would leave the hurdles there for the person we're buying to overcome. And he was trying to make the deal happen quickly, and it ended up backfiring on him a little bit. And he even shared with us that he's still having a little bit of that issue today. And from that, I would just say that, look, that's where understanding your valuation and making sure that you know what you're worth. And we have a free offers page on our website. If you get on assuredstrategy.com and you look at the resources down in there, there's free offers. And if you click on that, we have a business valuation for your business. And if you just enter some simple numbers, it'll give you a rule of thumb number for your business. And then if you add a little bit more financial information, it'll actually give you a valuation. And all that information is confidential. It is stored in a confidential way. So you don't have to worry about your business being leaked out onto the internet, because it won't be. And I would really strongly suggest that you understand what your value of your business is. A lot of business owners think that they're going to sell their business someday, and a lot of them just close their door, especially smaller companies. They just close their doors because they can't even sell their business. So take a look at that. Also, we have free disc profiles and meeting evaluations, and then gap analysis. If you've never really understood what gap analysis is what are the gaps in your processes as you scale and grow. One of the things I commonly tell people is if you have two people, they have two relationships. If you add 3, you have 6, and then you add fourth person, you have 24, and then you add a fifth person, it's 120. And what ends up happening is I have 2 people doing a process, and now those 5 people are doing a process. Well, when it was 2 people, it was easy to change the process. But now that you have 5 people, it's a little bit more difficult because you have 120 points of communication. And what ends up happening is that the processes are never written and never actually documented the way that 5 people are doing it. And there's some redundancies or gaps in the process. And that's what a gap analysis is. It really helps you understand where you might have gaps in your process that may be costing you a lot of money, especially when you don't know what your business model is actually, how it's interacting and working. You understand it philosophically, but you don't have it documented. It's these things really creep in. So take a look at that page. And then we have an events page also. And on September 26th, I alluded to this at the beginning of the show, Warren Sager is doing a pricing for profit webinar, and that's on the 26th from 1 to 2 Central Time. And then we have a webinar on efficient operations for cash conservation. Warren's doing that one also on October 24th. And so you could see Warren's doing quite a few around cash. I think cash is an issue with some businesses right now, and we're trying to help them make sure that they maintain their cash flow. And then the next one is Lisa Jane and I are actually doing one on cash management mastery, the tools and techniques for financial literacy. We're going to talk a little bit about what you need to do to make sure that you monitor your cash flow. So, and then on November 14th, we're doing another one with Preston Law. He's going to talk about how processes not working effectively can impact your cash flow in your business. So quite a few things on cash flow there and growing your cash flow. But let's go back to a little bit about what Trey was talking about and his acquisition. So what he learned is that when he does an acquisition, he has to have more eyes on the acquisition. So with Trey's personality and his wanting to go fast and get deals done, he wants to make sure somebody that's a little slower paced comes in and just looks at everything and makes sure nothing was missed. And I think that that's a great stopgap he put in. And I would strongly suggest that for any business owner buying a business where they're not using advisors to help them. And then one of the other things I love that he said is he has an advisor review the deal. So that may be somebody like myself, somebody like their accountant, or somebody who has experience at doing these types of transactions. I've done over 100 in my time. And then I know there's a lot of people out there that have done quite a few transactions. So we sort of know what to look for and know questions to ask. And that's what he said he was going to do, is have somebody objective look at it also. So some very good pointers for people who have never even bought a business if you're considering buying one. And I would strongly suggest this as a strategy for growth. It is an effective strategy. You just have to make sure that the company is what you think it's going to be, and ask the questions that you need to ask. I think that one of the things is he looked at the employee, team members of that company. He really valued who they were. He could see that they were leaders in the industry, but he didn't know they were all going to leave, and he probably should have talked to them a little bit to make sure that they were going to stay, especially the top key people who had all the relationships with the customers. And he lost 60% of that business. So immediately 60% of that business flew out the door. Valuable lesson, right? And there's been many people I've talked to that's made this mistake. So he's definitely not alone. And I would tell you, I even made it a little bit when I purchased my very first company. Didn't ask questions on the billing, and we were much different, used much different rates than the people we billed, and we lost half the clients almost immediately because of that. So really important to think about as you're going along. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and I wanted to share our website with you and some of the things that are going on. We have quite a few events going on, but the next Scaling Up workshop we have in San Antonio on December the 10th, and that one's already getting quite full. I think we're about a little over halfway full right now, so we'd love to have you. If you want to learn more about it, get on assuredstrategy.com and just click on the events icon up at the top, and you can learn about all our events. Thank you, Trey, for coming in today, and thank you for joining the show. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. Thank you.